Good evening, members, and good evening, many members of the public who are watching this evening. I'm Councillor Alan Law. I'm the chairman of the Eastern Area Planning Committee. So welcome to today's meeting. The other members of the committee are as follows: as Councillors Jeremy Cotton, Tony Linden, Royce Longton, Ross McKinnon, Alan Macro, Graham Pask, Joanne Stewart, and Owen Jeffries. And I've got the following officers in attendance to advise and support the meeting. I've got Bob Dre, who's the Development Control Team Leader. Gemma Kirk is the Planning Officer and will be presenting tonight. Gareth Downing from Highways. Kim Mather from Legal. And our clerk for this evening is Jessica Bayliss. I'm also assisted by Phil Rubens, who's our Digital Services Manager and will be the Zoom host for the meeting. So I'm now going to ask Jessica as a clerk to comment and give some reminders to the members and other attendees about the way we conduct council meetings via Zoom.
Thank you, Chairman. So members, standard Zoom reminders were provided to you in advance of this meeting and are also being shown on the screen. In addition to those points, if it becomes necessary for any members to telephone into the meeting, you won't be able to signal to speak. So once everyone has raised a Zoom hand has spoken, I will ask the chairman to invite anyone who has telephoned in to speak in order. Voting on the planning application will take place via a named vote. Members will be asked in turn by the legal advisor how they wish to vote by stating they are for or against the proposal, or if they wish to abstain. Please remember to unmute yourself when voting. Any other votes will be conducted via a show of actual hands during the meeting. Unless the committee asks for the vote to be recorded, the outcome of the name vote will not appear in the minutes. So anyone wishing the vote to be recorded must indicate this before the vote is taken. If we need to adjourn the meeting at any point, the chairman will adjourn and will advise the committee of the revised time and date of the meeting. If it is a short adjournment, you will be able to rejoin the Zoom meeting. Otherwise, a fresh appointment will be sent out. Do members have any questions about the way in which the meeting will be conducted before we proceed?
No, fine. Thank you very much. Could I now ask Jessica, do we have any apologies for this evening, please?
Yes, Chairman. So we've received an apology from Councillor Jeff Mays with Councillor Owen Jeffrey as substitute.
Thank you very much. We then move on to the minutes. Members, I take it you've seen and read the minutes. Do we have any questions, any comments? And if so, could I have I've read them, looked okay to me, but
so proposed, Chairman.
I have a proposer. Do I have a seconder?
I'll second.
Seconded from Councillor Cottam, I think, with his hands up. Okay, we've got the minutes have been proposed, properly proposed and seconded. Do we all agree just by show of visual hands? If you agree. Councillor Macro, do you agree those minutes? I don't see your hand. Okay, fine. Thank you. That's all agreed. Minutes are accepted. I now do my little bit here and sign them up in the air. Get the camera. Where are we? There they are.
Chairman, one moment, please. Can I just indicate that I actually did abstain? I haven't got the document in front of me. I did read it originally, and I wasn't at the meeting.
That's fine. Thank you very much. Okay.
Chairman, just a point of order before you start and go any further. I don't know whether anyone else is on the participant list missing the raise hand icon. I am missing it. I've checked right down to the bottom. So I think I might have to, if I wish to speak, put my hand up.
That's fine. It's usually under participants, isn't it?
Yeah, that's correct, Chairman.
I appreciate where it normally is, Chairman. I'm saying I cannot see it under that list as I normally can.
Okay, fine. Okay, let me just check my own here. Oh yeah, I've got it here. It's working for me, but okay. let's, well, we'll just, yes, wave your hand and unmute yourself and interrupt if you may. That's, there's
Chairman, if I may,
Yes.
another point of order. I know
Yeah.
that Councillor Longton was having some issues, some technical issues. I can't see him at the moment. And if we're about to start discussing the application, I thought maybe we should just check in with him.
Thank you very much.
I can see and hear.
You can. Well, we can hear you, but we can't see you.
And I've got a problem because my battery is running low and it's been plugged in for days.
Well, okay. Well, we still have to proceed. If you can, as long as you hear us and see us, that's fine. And if you have to drop out, well, so be it. Oh, you're back on again. Okay. Members, before we go ahead, any declarations of interest? No, I don't have any. So what we'll do is we'll go straight into the only application we've got for this evening, which is 26 Exmoor Road. And I'm assuming, Gemma, you're presenting this, are you?
Yeah, that's correct. Thank you, Chairman.
We'll go ahead.
Okay. I'm just going to share my screen first. Can I just check that everyone can see that?
Yes.
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 Thank you very much. So this application seeks planning permission for a first floor extension to the bungalow at 26 Exmoor Road. Officers are looking to recommend approval subject to conditions. This application is before the committee as a petition with 20 plus signatories and more than 10 objections have been received. So the first slide shows the location plan. The application site is located within the settlement boundary of Berkshire. The application site itself, 26 Exmoor Road, is the southernmost dwelling in the cul-de-sac. As you can see from the red line there, that's marked out there, and it runs parallel to the moors, which is this road along here. So the cul-de-sac itself is formed of both two-storey and single-storey dwellings. So this slide just shows the existing elevation, showing the existing low-profile bungalow. And this is the existing floor plan, so there's 3 bedrooms at ground floor currently. So the proposed site plan shows that the first floor extension will be positioned over the existing footprint of the bungalow, and that the flat roof garage will remain unaltered by the proposal. This plan also shows 3 parking spaces within the site. There is also one in the garage that's showing on that plan as well. The proposed elevations show that the first floor extension will be clad in a weatherboard material that will closely match the colour of the existing of other properties in the existing area. The roof tiles and the windows will be similar to those on the existing bungalow. And these are the proposed floor plans, which show there will be 4 bedrooms upstairs and there will be living space downstairs. There has been amended floor plans received as part of this application to clarify that the enlarged dwelling would be used as a single dwelling house. So now I'm just going to talk through the photos that we've got here. So this is a photo showing the street scene looking south down Exmoor Road. So you can see where the arrow is pointing, that is the application site. And then this is a close up of the street scene. And you can see behind, that's the 26 Exmoor Road. There is 10 Denton Close, which runs alongside the moors. And this is also a 2-storey dwelling. You can see that in the background. This is just a close-up of the front and side elevation of the existing bungalow. And then this is a view from the moors looking west. So to this side here, you can see 26 Exmoor Road. And then this is looking east. So that at the front of the picture is 26 Exmoor Road and behind is 27 Exmoor Road.
Gemma, can I just observe, it's the other way round. You were looking east first time and this is looking west, isn't it?
Oh, I apologise.
I think. I'm pretty sure.
Thank you for that clarification. I'm not quite sure it matters.
I agreed.
Yeah, it's 27's behind. And then this shows the relationship between 26 and 25 Exmoor Road from the rear elevation. So this property here is 25 Exmoor Road. And then this is just the rear southeast elevation of the existing bungalow. And then we've also provided 2 images showing the existing relationships within Exmoor Road between single story and 2-story dwellings. So this is 23 and 24 Exmoor Road. And the next slide shows the application slide 26 Exmoor Road and then 27 Exmoor Road. The main considerations for this application I'll go into now. So the principle of development is acceptable as the site is located within the established settlement boundary of Batcham. In terms of impact of the character area, whilst the first floor extension is not usually considered to be subservient to a bungalow, it is considered to be acceptable in this instance because of the existing relationship between single and 2-story dwellings within Exmoor Road already, as demonstrated by those photos. The position of it within the street scene itself, the scale of the dwellings within the area of both Exmoor Road and those that are also can be seen from the moors are predominantly 2-story dwellings. And the extension has been designed to be in keeping with the properties on Exmoor Road, including the use of cladding. Next, neighbouring amenity was assessed, and due to the orientation and position of the application site and its neighbouring dwellings, it was considered that in terms of outlook and loss of daylight and sunlight, the impact would not be demonstrably or significantly harmful on the neighbouring properties. And by the use of a condition to fix obscure glass to the northeast elevation windows, it was considered that the impact on privacy and outlooking would not be significantly harmful. The next consideration we looked at was highway safety. So we note that there were concerns raised by objectors with regards to potential use of the enlarged dwelling as a house of multiple occupancy. As mentioned in the report, there is certain permitted changes in which a dwelling could be converted to HMO. However, we noted that there would be highways concerns with this, so we've recommended a condition to be applied which would ensure that the enlarged dwelling remained as a single dwelling house. Free parking spaces are provided, which are shown on the site plan here, and that accords with policy P1. We also agreed as part of the application a construction method statement to protect neighbouring amenity and highway safety. Just to briefly talk about the written representation submitted. With regard to the applicant's written statement, there was some personal information that has been removed. However, this information was just only provided to back up the applicant's need that this was going to be a single family dwelling house rather than a HMO, just to address those objections. And then there was also some photographs that have been redacted from the written statement by the objector, as these went beyond the scope of the submission. However, I do have on my next slide an aerial photograph of the site, which shows the hedge that was referred to. So this hedge here that sits along there, you can see in this aerial photograph there are 2 cars parked there, that is the hedge that the objector was referring to. In the update report, you'll note that we received 1 additional objection letter. However, no new issues were raised in that. So whilst there has been a number of objections to this application, we consider that with the use of conditions, we can secure a first floor extension to be acceptable, and therefore recommend that planning permission to be granted. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. Just one quick question. I take it, is this a strong recommendation or a balanced recommendation?
It's a strong recommendation.
Thank you very much. Okay, I'd now like to move on. We have written submissions to be read out. One from a set of objectors, the next door neighbours, Mr. and Mrs. O'Brien, and then the applicant himself, and then we'll go on to the ward member. So if I could ask the clerk, please, to read out the written submissions.
Yes, Chairman, I'll just share my screen. Okay, So beginning with the submission from objectors, Mr. Timothy and Maria O'Brien. Thank you for your recent correspondence letting me know about the next stages of the above planning application. We would like to object with the following with these outstanding comments. This is a clear overdevelopment of the corner of this private plot. The parking situation for this number of bedrooms is inadequate as the old front garden has at some point in the past been paved without any additional access to the supposed second parking space that they are proposing. The original planning shows the bungalow on the lower right-hand side near number 26. There is a narrow access way that can't accommodate the two spaces in the submitted plan 2000115 house. The access is really only wide enough for a single vehicle, and the hedge is the border between our properties, and I have not granted any additional right of way should that hedge be removed. Building has not even started, and already works vehicles are visiting and blocking both my driveway and the garage belonging to number 25, both the adjacent properties. If this house was to be developed to the initial submitted plan of 7 bedrooms, 3 of which have simply been renamed, it would create a need for more than the available parking for that potential number of occupants. This is not feasible in this narrow cul-de-sac without adversely affecting both neighbours. For the reasons above, I would like to reiterate my objection to the planned extension going ahead. So that concludes the submission from the objector. Moving on to the submission from the applicant, Mr. Robert Black. I am writing a supporting statement on behalf of my family with regards to the above subject. My name is Robert Black. We are applying to construct a first floor extension because we are a family of 6 consisting of 4 adults and 2 children. The proposal of a master bedroom with 3 ensuite, 3 bedrooms, dressing, storage, bathroom, and proposing to alter the ground floor to be more suitable for our family life. At the moment, we are living in a private rented 3-bedroom accommodation with our eldest son sleeping in the same room as his granddad and our youngest son sleeping in with his nan. They are at an age where they need some private space where they can relax, and I am sure their grandparents would like to have their own bedroom too. I run a heating and plumbing business and from home, so I require an office space and work calls can be made without distractions. As we have inherited this property, this is an ideal opportunity as a family to have a forever home at a reasonable price. We are aware that there is more than one property on Exmoor Road that has had a 2nd-story conversion, which doesn't seem to be as in keeping with the surrounding properties as the conversion we are proposing. Regards to comments about drainage, number 26 is at the lowest end of the road and the main drainage passes through number 26. It would be to blame 26 for any drainage issues. I believe Mr. Black may have missed a word out just in this section and should read, it would be unfair to blame number 26 for any drainage issues, as we are aware there has only been 1 blockage in 10 years. As to comment regarding parking, we have 3 spaces and a garage, which can be seen on Google Maps. We only have 2 vehicles. Grandparents don't drive, and we don't foresee them being able to drive soon. And that concludes the submission from the applicant.
Oh, thank you, Jessica. Thank you for that. Very well read. Thank you. I now go on to invite the ward member. Councillor Jeffries, is there anything you would like to say?
Yes, please, Chairman. Thank you very much indeed. I want to make it completely clear that the comments I want to make are not related to the principle of putting an extra floor on this bungalow. I think that it is acceptable to do that. I fully understand that Exmoor Road has got both single-storey bungalows and 2-storey houses in it, and I think that this is something which can be entertained without problem. The concern that I have as ward member is the possibility of the house at some stage being converted into a house in multiple occupation. I wanted to be very, very certain that we have written into the record that if the committee agrees to this application, I would hope that the committee would agree that there needs to be a strongly worded element that ensures that there could be no possibility of it being turned, number 26 being turned into a house in multiple occupation, unless there were to be a full planning permission applied for and then granted. So that's the particular concern that I have, is that under no circumstances must it just go casually to become a home in multiple occupation.
Thank you, Councillor Jeffries. Members, do we have any members have any questions of Councillor Jeffries? I can only see, let me get into my full screen here in gallery view so I can see hands moving. Any questions? Councillor Cottam, you have your hand up. Unmute, Councillor Cottam. Unmute, Councillor Cottam.
Got it. Right, 3 questions. Running a business from home, if there's, say, concern about the effects on the neighbours, is that still a relevant point?
Who's that? That's a question to Councillor Jeffries, I take it.
No, not to Councillor Jeffries, sorry.
No,
We're
we're currently looking for questions to the ward member.
I apologise, I was jumping the gun. No,
Okay. Any
no, I don't
questions
have
to
any
Councillor
questions.
Jeffries?
Apologies.
That's fine. I have just an observation to Councillor Jeffries. I note in his concerns about the multiple occupancy, and I think if you check on condition 9, there's a very strong condition, if we were to approve, a very strong condition to withdraw permitted development rights. And if there is any possibility of the owners wishing to move that to an HMO, they have to apply with a new planning application. So I think that deals with your concerns.
If the committee votes that way, then yes, that would indeed deal with my concern.
Right, thank you. Okay, I'd now like to move on to questions of the officers, or any questions related to the written submissions you may have heard. Councillor Cottam, you've got your hands up quickly. Go ahead.
Yay. Okay, 3-part question. Running a business from home, if there's objections, is that a planning issue? If it's likely to cause disturbance to the surrounding neighbours?
Why did you ask your 3 questions?
Okay. Second one is, we're talking about cars. We're talking about a business, and we're talking about a trade vehicle. Does that have any effect on the application? And 3, I see it's an 80% increase in development. Is that not over our guidelines? So that's the 3 that are the main questions.
So Bob, Gemma, who wishes to answer those? Gemma? Bob?
No, it's okay. Sorry. So the query with regards to the home office, if it's just like a home office taking phone calls and maybe just using a computer, it isn't necessarily a change of use. If it became anything, sorry, can I just, Bob, would you be able to answer that?
Yeah. Chairman, it's a single dwelling house. Obviously, working from home is increasingly common, and people have home offices. That isn't automatically. It depends on the specifics, basically. It's quite common to be able to work from home, and it's incidental or ancillary to the main use of the house. So we've got no concerns in that respect. Bear in mind that this planning application is purely for the extension, and it goes with the land, not the occupant. So if the occupant was to use a home office in a way that did create material change of use due to the amount of traffic or customers, then that will be a separate enforcement issue and not something you need to concern yourself with now. It is simply an extended house. So we're not permitting anything that wouldn't be ancillary to a normal house. And I mean, people do park trade vehicles sometimes at their house, but as with any house, that can happen, but it's fundamentally a dwelling house.
If I may, I'm completely happy with what you said on the first point. Thank you. On the second point, these plumbers' vans are large vehicles that are normally much larger than a normal domestic car. Maybe that's a question for highways. I don't know.
Gareth may wish to add something, but we have to assess the application that's before us on the merits of the case rather than the occupant. And we, in terms of parking, we rely on our parking standards, and they require 2.4 by 4.8 meter spaces, and that's the only requirement we can apply.
Just the applicant has put this in as evidence.
Yes, but it's, again, we're looking at, but yeah, I appreciate that, but it doesn't change how we assess it ultimately.
Okay. So it's not an issue. Thank you.
Excuse me, Jeremy. Excuse me. We're talking over each other here. Let me try and help you out. I'd like our highways officer to comment, given that I think some comments that have been made is the parking's a bit, shall we say, a bit tight, and we might come back to that. Given that it's a bit tight, a larger vehicle than a normal car is what I think is behind Councillor Collins' question. Would you care to comment?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The problem we have is that we can't actually say you must or must not have a vehicle of a certain size. We are restricted by what is our policy on parking standards in terms of the standard car park space. The owner of the property may well have a large transit to begin with, but then again, he may change to a smaller car size van later on. It's his own personal choice. All we can do is insist that car park spaces are provided to our standard and to the correct size, and that those spaces are then used by him as he can. If he has a van which is oversized, shall we say, compared to a standard car, I'm afraid there's not a lot we can do to stop that. The only time we can is if it's a commercial vehicle, and that vehicle is supposed to be registered somewhere as a commercial depot for overnight parking. Then we can ask I believe it's VOSA to investigate whether or not that vehicle should be parked on a private property. But if it's a privately owned vehicle owned by the owner, I'm afraid there's not a lot we can do.
Thank you for that. There was a third question about the size of the extension. Perhaps
I'm happy to add, and just to follow on from Gareth's point there, if it was parking commercial vehicles in that sense, that may well be an indicator of a change of use that will be an enforcement issue if it's to that scale. On the 80% comment, we are within the settlement boundaries, so there is no policy in terms of proportional increase like we have in the countryside. So it's really just making a judgment as to whether the development respects the character and appearance of the area. We've commented in the report about scale, appearance, and all sorts of matters. And because of the existing predominantly two-storey scale in the area, we're happy with the principle of 2 stories. And we've noted that other properties, there is a juxtaposition where it goes from single story to 2-story, and that fits in well. So again, it's not incongruous in the context. So whilst it's a useful indicator, the percentage increase, it's not, I think the focus is more on how it fits in with the area, if that helps.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else have a question for officers? Councillor Macro-Allen.
Thank you. Again, it's about parking. Looking at the drawings in our pack, when we look at the proposed ground floor plan, which is on page 9 of our plans, it clearly shows parking in the garage and 3 other parking spaces, including 2 adjacent to the next door boundary. However, on page 7, we're looking at the only one I can find is the existing roof plan, which shows 1 vehicle parked adjacent to the boundary with next door. And there's obviously on that drawing, there's no room to put a second vehicle. I think this is to do with the way the drawings have been drawn, if I can put it that way. But I would just like to be clarified that there is in actual fact space for 2 vehicles adjacent.
Gareth, would you like to comment?
Thank you. Yes, I do believe it is the way that the drawings have been presented. We have checked thoroughly that the owner has sufficient width for 2 vehicles to park side by side to the side of his property. It is true that those vehicles cannot both go in at the same time, and that one vehicle will have to make a manoeuvre and then the second vehicle can then slot in alongside. But this is so similar to what you'd have for tandem parking, that you have to move vehicles around to get them in and out of spaces. It is fair to say that yes, at the entrance to these parking spaces, it is narrow, but it does widen out as it goes past the hedge. So at the back of this area, there is sufficient room for 2 vehicles to park by each other.
Thank you.
I'd like just to add, there's sufficient room for 2 cars.
That is very true, but then the spaces are, as I said earlier, they are conform to our parking standards in terms of the overall size.
No, I understand that. I just looked at that particular configuration. I don't think there's probably a room for a van and a car in those particular. Obviously, the van would have to take the third designated space. That's just an observation to help. Any other questions of officers? Oh, wow, that's okay.
Chairman, Councillor Cottam has got his hand raised.
Oh, okay. And I think just before you do, Councillor Cottam, do I see Councillor Pask waving at me as well? Yes, he is. Okay, Councillor Cottam, go ahead, and then we'll go to Councillor Pask.
I think this is my technical inability to follow. I think it was an electronic hand that I didn't put down, so my apologies, Chairman.
Okay, so you've Councillor Pask, do you have a question? You're not mute. You're on mute, Councillor Pask, please. He doesn't appear to be able to unmute.
I think he's asking to be unmuted.
Can Phil help? You're unmuted now, Councillor.
Oh, I am now, thank you. No, I know how to unmute. It was not responding, so I'm going to have to get...
having problem, okay.
I was going to... I thought you'd finished the questions, Chairman. I thought you were entering debate.
No, okay. And I thought you had a question. I was to the end of the questions. Okay, fine. I think we finished questions. Therefore, I'm going to go into debate, and I'm going to give Councillor Pask the first dibs out of this.
Right. Well, Chairman, I read the agenda with great interest, and notably comments from those objecting to this application, particularly the numbers involved with the petition. So I drove down to the end of Exmoor Road yesterday to have a look for myself, even though I know the area reasonably well. I've never driven down there before. And I understand, yes, it is fairly tight. It is quite narrow. It is the end of a cul-de-sac. But we can only make a judgment, I believe, in planning terms. There is adequate access there for a 3 or 4 bedroom property, which I believe, I'm looking for a nod from our highways officer, there needs to be space for 2 cars there now anyway, I believe. Looking for the nod.
Nodded.
I'm not getting a nod. I'll continue and then I'll ask the highways officer, Chairman. I would imagine that you need 2 spaces, therefore there must be adequate manoeuvring space for 2 cars. Then what hinges on are your concerns. Is there enough room for 3? We have to go, I believe, on what our policy is in terms of parking. That is, can the applicant demonstrate 3 parking spaces of the required size, 2.4 by 4.8? And we're assured by our highways officer they can. The parking in the garage is totally irrelevant now, according to our local plan. Something like only 20% of garages are used for parking. We took the requirement for a garage to be a parking space out at the last revisions to the local plan. So we're looking for 3 parking spaces on the outside of the garage, in front of the property, at the side of the property, and we are told that they are provided. Having observed very carefully all the other properties around and the relationship, as our planning officer has said, there are several bungalows down the road. There are several 2-story properties adjacent to certain bungalows. The street seen as you drive down the main road, the Moors Road, is mainly of 2-story properties, fairly adjacent, as this is, to the Moors Road itself. So I'm leaning, Chairman, or as long as it is tied down very tightly, that any further change of use, by that I mean house of multiple occupation, which automatically would require a planning permission for that to take place, especially in light of the recommendations written. I'm leaning slightly positively, but I'd be very towards the officer's recommendation, that is. But I would like that clarification as to the number of pet spaces that this bungalow requires now for parking. And I'd be very interested, of course, to hear what other members of the committee have to say before making any proposal or supporting any proposal.
Thank you, Councillor Pask. Let me just go to Gareth. Gareth, would you like to comment on that question?
Certainly, Mr. Chairman, thank you. The problem we have is that this is an existing bungalow. So when it was constructed, the parking standards may have been something completely different. So it may well have had one space and a garage, because at that time we counted garages as a space. If this was a new bungalow being constructed now as a 3-bedroom bungalow, then you'd be looking at 2.5 to maybe 3 spaces, depending on where it is. I suspect in Thatcher it would be 2.5 spaces because of the locality and how that it's quite accessible. So I think you can't unfortunately use existing parking that's in other properties in that area as a guide to what should be there now. We have to work on what the parking standards now for this change, and that will be 3 spaces.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, helpful.
Any other, Councillor Cottam, I see your hand up.
Yes, yeah, this time. Sorry. So we're talking about, sorry, clarify for me, how many bedrooms? 8?
Well, we're into debate now. So that was a question.
Yes, but I'm looking at...
You're past the question.
Sorry, I missed
it.
Okay. Withdraw the question then.
Let me help you out. The original application, as I understand it, and the officers can tell me if I'm wrong, was for 8 bedrooms. They asked to be clarified, and it's now a 4-bedroom proposal. Sorry, a 4-bedroom proposal possibly could go to 6 because there were 2 rooms, one upstairs, one downstairs, that could be converted. Am I correct? That is the correct assessment, is it not, officers?
Yeah, that's correct. The floor plans originally did show 3 bedrooms at ground floor, but these floor plans were amended to show 4 bedrooms upstairs plus 2 rooms capable of conversion.
So we've got to assess the application as in front of us at the moment.
Well, there's reality, and as the application is in front of us, we can tick all the boxes we like, and when they all add up, they don't add up.
You don't have to accept it.
I'm very unhappy. I think that it went in as an 8-bedroom or 7 or 8 bedroom, and then because we had concerns, it was rapidly declared that this wasn't the intention. And when you actually have the facts in hand and you actually had a planning application which now has been diluted, well, that's maybe we're ticking the boxes because now all of a sudden they've got those 4 bedrooms, and so it's not of concern anymore. And then I'm thinking of the neighbours, because yes, we do have a duty to the applicant, but what about the duty to the enjoyment of the properties adjoining them? And if it goes to 6 to 8 bedrooms and they are adults, then you're going to see a major multiplication. I agree. This application ticks all the boxes because it's been groomed and adjusted to do so. I can't possibly object to this because the officers are telling me that basically we can't do anything. This all of a sudden it's changed and it's really acceptable. But I can't support this. I can't propose rejection because I don't have the technical grounds to do so. But I think this basically is wrong. Rant over.
Fine. Your points are noted and well made. Anybody else wish to say anything in this debate? Councillor Macro.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As I'm not very happy about this application, I must say. Having lived next door to a property that was converted into an HMO without planning permission, without the requirement for planning permission, I can understand neighbours' concerns. But as Councillor Cosson has just said, really, we have to make a decision based on what's in front of us, and I can't see really any reason for refusing this. There is one other kind of thing in my mind as well, one other concern, and that is it's a shame to lose a bungalow. I read the other day only 3% of new homes are bungalows, and bungalows are very useful, of course, for people with movement difficulties. But again, that doesn't seem to be a reason we can object to this application.
Yeah. Okay. Is anybody working their way towards a proposal here? Councillor Pask.
Yeah, Chairman, could I just say what before I do, Councillor Macro, I do agree with you. I have the same feelings. Bungalows are needed. They are in short supply. It is a shame to lose one. But in planning grounds, that is not a reason, as you know, for refusing this. May I just test the water, Chairman, with a proposal that we accept officers' recommendations, clearly very much with number 9 in place, that this property should be for domestic family use, not as a house of multiple occupation.
Yeah. Thank you for that proposal. Do I get a seconder? Seconder, Councillor Linden's got his hand up. Is that correct, Councillor Linden?
Yes, Chairman.
You've got to second that. Okay. Before we do anything else, could I just ask the officers, just because we haven't done this yet, could you just review the conditions that you attach, please? Quick summary of those conditions so we all understand them. Gemma, I think that'll be probably your job.
Yeah, so the conditions that we are recommending are the commencement of development, the list of approved plans. So for the materials to be specified on the plans, we've requested further details of the cladding to be submitted, the windows on the northeast elevation to be fitted with obscure glass, a condition for the hours of work during demolition and construction, the development to be carried out in accordance with the construction method statement submitted, for parking to be provided in accordance with the plans, the condition to restrict the enlarged building to be only a single family dwelling house, so they would need a planning application if they wanted to convert it to a HMO, and then with just the informatives for the highway informatives regarding access, construction, damage to the footways, carriageway, and any kind of incidental works affecting the highways.
And I think given the location and the tightness of traffic movement that we've talked about, the construction method statement, which I understand has been already agreed, is I think it's an important one. So we've got a proposal, properly proposed, properly seconded. I'd like to go to the vote, please. So I guess back to Jessica to handle the voting procedure.
It's probably me, actually. Is it me?
I'm sorry?
Yeah. It's me, actually. I think it's me.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, beg your pardon, Kim.
So I will call the names, and if everyone can go for or against, and I'll note it down. Okay, so Councillor Pask.
For.
Councillor Stewart.
Councillor Stewart,
you're on mute. Councillor Stewart.
I was surprised I'd come so early in the list. 4.
Councillor Longton.
Say again.
4.
Thank you.
Councillor Linden.
4.
Councillor Cottam.
Against.
Councillor McKinnon.
4.
Councillor Macro.
4.
Councillor Jeffrey.
4.
And Councillor Law.
Yeah, 4.
Okay, 1, 2, 3. So that's an 8-1.
So that is carried. So the application has been approved with those conditions. Thank you, members. We have no other applications, but we do have a few pages of appeal results, and very comprehensively written out. Thank you. I'm assuming that was you, Bob. Thank you very much. Quite clear. Is there anything you wish to point out?
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. It's worth, I won't obviously go into much detail. It's just there for your information, but there's been 3 more appeals to do with our countryside policies on small scale developments. So you got the paragraphs 3 onwards there are showing some examples about the infill development one. So that first image is a obvious example of a not infill, because it's not within a within a closely knit cluster, which is a requirement of policy C1. So that will inform us determining our future applications. And the Warren 2 in Padworth, there the inspector had a tandem dwelling, and that wasn't considered infill because although there was a row of houses along the frontage, but it was set behind that, and there was no immediate neighbours either side. So 2 quite helpful decisions there on interpreting that policy. The other one's very site specific, so not much going forward. We've had a few disappointing appeals on amenity space. I appreciate members are very concerned about this at the moment, especially with the comments that were made last time about lockdown, etc. We've got one here, Kennet Road, where it was slightly below, the size was slightly below the threshold in the SPD, but the inspector looked at the shape of it, said it was rational, regular shape, and would be a significant benefit to the future occupiers and provide a reasonable degree of privacy. So he felt, despite a small shortfall, I should say, it generally met the aspirations of the SPD. And then members will recall the High Street one in Phil, which unfortunately was one at appeal. The inspector there noted a list of concerns with the amenity space that members pointed out, but hinged their decision on the SPD talking about different approaches to providing outdoor amenity space according to location and character. So it looks like he took the view that it was a town centre location and therefore that justified it in this case. Interestingly, no regard to lockdown despite the timing of the decision, which will be interesting for future. But I think the key point there is to take a holistic approach in terms of it's partly to do with size and it's partly to do with quality. And I think that works both ways. You could have amenity space that may tick all the may be above the minimum standard, but if it's the small little pockets around the side of a house, for example, rather than a usable piece of amenity space, that might be unacceptable, is the flip side of the coin there. So yeah, it's worth noting there. We have had one about sequential tests, which is merely confirming that need to apply sequential tests, which is a policy requirement where new housing or new development is proposed in a flood zone. And a few other ones there, which you can read in their own time. I don't think I necessarily.
I find, Bob, sorry to interrupt you. I found that flooding one interesting. But basically saying we've got to do a sequential test, even if we all agree the site has got mitigating measures, which would.
Yes, Chairman, it's
when you have a change of emphasis, isn't it?
It's an established policy. There's two. We look at it from the technical point of view, and there's also a policy point of view. The policy in the MPPF, which is in our own policies as well, is essentially saying don't build on areas at flood risk unless you have to, unless sequentially you found out that there are no areas of lesser flood risk that you can develop. So even if you can make a scheme technically safe from flooding through a flood risk assessment and various technical engineering works, there's still in principle, you shouldn't be building on the floodplain anyway, basically. So we do get that occasionally where we have a flood risk assessment where a scheme can be technically prevented from flooding and not causing harm elsewhere, but it's still a policy objection. So, yeah. Thank you.
Is that it?
Yeah, unless you have any other questions.
No, that's okay. Any questions? Councillor Pass.
Not a question, Chairman. You know how I like these lists at the end of the agenda. And I was going to say Bob's gone several steps further with the explanations.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to say thank you. It's much appreciated.
Indeed. I would. Yeah, I think I said that at the beginning, but I would emphasize it. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Good.